Well, this video is long overdue and it may turn out to be a long video too. I'm not sure. So if it turns out to be a long video, I appreciate you sticking with it through the entirety of the video, even if it takes you a couple sessions to watch it. When I think about personality type, one of the most important aspects to me of why it is that we should be interested in this subject, why we should care about this subject, why we should try to study it and understand it, is because it leads to improved communication and understanding. It leads to, I think, more compassion for other human beings, trying to see the world through the eyes of another person, through trying to analyze experiences and what we go through in life in the way that someone else's mind analyzes these things is a way that we can improve our communication with one another and improve our relationships with one another. And I think improving our relationships just goes so far toward helping heal many things in our own lives and in this world that are broken. And so understanding personality type to me has a real sort of boots on the ground practical application in day-to-day life that can lead to some really positive changes, some really positive outcomes as we go through life. Now, as I mentioned in a recent video, one of the main causes of misunderstandings between people is just a cognitive function difference. So like when someone uses extroverted thinking and they're trying to have a relationship or an interaction with someone that uses introverted thinking, or someone with extroverted feeling interacting with introverted feeling, and and the same can be true for intuition and sensing. These are definitely issues that are major contributors to relationship problems and misunderstandings in communication. Just having a different focus within one's cognitive function stack. So a thinker trying to communicate with a feeler. Now, we're all thinkers and we're all feelers, but what I mean is someone who favors their thinking over their feeling, trying to communicate with someone the opposite. Someone who favors intuition over sensing, trying to interact with someone who favors sensing over intuition, so on and so forth. But there's another issue that is, I believe, one of the major contributing factors to communication breakdowns, and you won't find it discussed in normal MBTI circles. It's an issue that has been discovered and introduced in personality theory by Objective Personalities System. They refer to it as something called animals, and I'm going to go beyond this really to get to something that I think it builds up to that is even more important. They refer to it as animals, and what they're saying is that there are within all of us four what they call animals. I like to think of them more as energies. So let me explain really quickly what they are. This is going to be a very brief overview. There is the sleep animal, which is the idea of always being rather self-focused and trying to preserve energy. There is the consume animal, which is the idea of always trying to take in for oneself. So whether it's consuming information or consuming food or consuming experiences, and all for the gratification or edification of self. There is the blast animal, which is the idea of teaching, speaking, getting going, moving, doing things, accomplishing. And then there is also the, which one am I missing? Sleep, consume, blast, play. The play animal, which is really expending energy on behalf of really other people of the group. And they are aspects of our personality that vary because we all favor some over the other. I like to think of them not as animals, but as energies. The reason that Objective Personality calls them animals is because they really discovered the idea by watching animals, watching monkeys, primates and by watching kindergartners on the playground. So they realize that different people focus what I like to think of as their energies in a different way. Some people are very sleep focused, so they're very focused on preserving energy, and they're very focused on going inward and thinking about self and focusing on self, concerning themselves with themselves. And some people are much more play focus, which means they're always expending energy. They've got energy to burn, and they're expending it outward on other people. Sometimes those who are self-focused, people with high sleep energy, can maybe be unconcerned with or unaware of others, and people with high play energy can often be unaware of who they are or have very little knowledge of self. Blast energy is this need to just tell people things and basically talk about what you think you know, and just tell people what to do. Blast energy is often responsible for commanding other human beings and directing them, and it wants to communicate information to people, but if it hasn't consumed information first, it may not always actually have a real deep grasp of what it's trying to communicate, but it does get things done. It doesn't sit around waiting. It just goes and says what it needs to say or what it thinks it needs to say. Consume energy is people with high consume energy are the people who can sit potentially and read or watch TV or play or look at their phone or whatever for hours upon hours upon hours and want more and more and more and more. And oftentimes people with high consume energy will take in and take in and take in, but they might not be very quick to then dish it back out to other people. So they're taking in for the self, and then they're not giving necessarily. People with high blast energy are telling people what to do and trying to talk to people and tell them all about this and all about that. They might not really have a real strong grasp of what they're trying to say or what they're actually talking about. And if you only look at the 16 personalities sheerly on a cognitive function basis, you're going to miss this aspect, because you can have, let's say, an ISFP that is high sleep energy, but you could have an ISFP that's high consume energy. And that ISFP, those two ISFPs could behave quite differently based on that, okay? You could have an ENTJ that is high play energy or high blast energy. Now, they could be relatively high at both, because if objective personality is correct, then what they teach is, and I believe they are correct, by the way, we all have all four energies, but we prioritize them 1 through 4. So you could be someone who is play, blast, consume, sleep. And you're going to be an extremely high energy person who's kind of like bouncing off the walls, always doing something, never resting, always getting something done. You could be a sleep, consume, blast, play. If you're that, then that means you probably spend a lot of time on downtime. You spend a lot of time preserving your energy, being alone, reading or taking in information for yourself, consuming things, and you might not talk a whole lot, and you might not go out and experience a whole lot. Or you could be relatively balanced in there. But no matter where you are, you do favor some of these over others. Now, this is really, that was just like an oh my gosh cursory overview. And what I mean by saying that is I'm giving you almost no details at all. So if you want to understand those animals, or what I call those energies, then I may make more videos on that topic in the future. But go check out Objective Personality, because they're going to explain it a lot more than I do. Now, their YouTube page is fairly overview-ish. You really have to subscribe if you want to get the meat of their content. And by subscribe, I don't mean subscribe to them on YouTube. I mean, you need to go to their website and you need to sign up, and there is a monthly cost for that, but it is worth it, I will say. But this leads to what I really want to talk the most about, and that is the idea that some people favor blast and consume over, which are the information energies or information animals, over one of the what Objective Personality calls the energy animals, which are sleep and play. And some people favor sleep and play over the information animals of blast and consume. So let me try to reel this in a little bit. What it all amounts to is this. Some people are information dominant and some people are energy dominant. Information dominant people are very concerned with a balance of taking in information and giving information. And it's very important to them that the accurate and open flow of communication be kept intact. They want to be able to understand an issue and then communicate about that issue. They want to be listened to and understood, and they want to listen and understand. Information dominant people care very much about the open flow and exchange of information. They want to be able to say everything that they need to say. They don't want to be interrupted. They don't want to see other people be interrupted. Energy dominant people, people who are more focused on preserving and expending energy, are very concerned with getting things done. They want to conserve energy so that they can get things done, and then they want to expend energy so that they can get things done, okay? And they are less concerned about the open exchange of information. Now, what I have experienced in my life is that when an information dominant person is trying to communicate with an energy dominant person, there is a massive breakdown. There is a massive wall between the two of them. And if you don't understand that you are one of those and that the person you're trying to communicate with is the other of those, if the two of you don't understand that, you will continue to have communication failures. If you don't take that seriously, you will continue to have communication failures. So I want to give you an example of this from my own life. I am an information dominant person. I care very highly about consuming information so that I have a thorough understanding of whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And then I care very deeply about good, accurate communication to others of that information. I want to thoroughly understand something, so I'm going to consume information. And then I like to help other people understand it because I believe it benefits them. So therefore, I blast out that information. But I blast that information out based on what I have thoroughly come to understand through research. I don't just blast out whatever the heck I think I know without taking the time to actually look into it. Okay? And some people do that. And that's just the way they're wired. It's not bad. It's the way they're wired. But for me, this balance is critical. It is of the utmost importance that I have a thorough understanding of a topic and then that I be able to and allowed to communicate that information. And it's very important to me that I have the opportunity to communicate that information to an audience that cares or that wants to pay attention. One of the worst things in the world for me is when someone is tasked with dispensing information, but the audience is disinterested and therefore not paying attention. That is just a horrible thing to me. I used to go to meetings for a job that I used to have when I was in management. And I would sit in this giant room full of people, probably 200 or 300 people, sitting at tables usually, 5 or 6 to a table. And the speaker would be up in front of the audience speaking, and it was someone from our company or someone that our company had brought in to communicate information to us that we were then supposed to take back into the field and implement. And inevitably there would be those within the room who were having, sidebar conversations, jokes, snickering, whatever. They were not paying attention. Those were most likely energy dominant people. And I didn't understand this back then. I understand it now. But those energy dominant people were far less concerned with consuming the information and properly having a thorough understanding of it. Now, one might say, well, then aren't they setting themselves up for failure when they go back out in the field? Well, yes, in some ways they are, but they have their own advantages when they're out there in the field that we information dominant people do not have. Now, getting back to the example that I was heading toward. At my last job, I worked with a man. I've mentioned him in some of my other videos. And he was an energy dominant human being to an oh my gosh level. So he was a play blast guy. That meant that his first energy was dedicated to just, let's go do things. Let's go expend energy. Let's go accomplish. And his second energy or animal was dedicated to, hey, let me tell you about this and let me tell you about that and let me tell you about that. But his very last animal or energy, in my opinion, or in my lingo, was consume. So he never took in information. He would come to me and stand in front of me and ask me a question, and I would be I am literally being honest here, I would be 3 words into my answer and he would ask me another question. He was not concerned with the open exchange of information. He was much more concerned with, hey, let's just get things done. Let's go. Now, in my mind, as an information dominant person, I'm looking at that and I'm like, how can you go out into the world and accomplish anything if you have not properly prepared yourself with the information? You need to just pump the brakes on the doing, and you need to just stop and let me teach you what you need to know to do it well. Now, in my mind, someone who is energy dominant is poised to go out and fail because they're going and doing, perhaps, especially if they're high play. Maybe if they're not if they're high sleep energy. But an energy dominant person is perhaps wanting to go and do, but they're not preparing themselves for what they are getting ready to go and do. And that seems wrong to me. It exasperated me. I would get so frustrated with him. And yet he has had a very successful career because he was not afraid to jump in. He was not a look before you leap kind of person. He was a he who hesitates is lost kind of person. He went and got things done. Sometimes he did some really dumb things. Sometimes he said some things that really put his foot in his mouth, but he wasn't afraid to try. He wasn't afraid to just go give it a shot. Now, not all energy dominant people are all go, do, because some people who are energy dominant are more concerned with the preservation of energy than the expenditure of energy. But either way, here's how it all comes out in the wash. An information dominant person wants this nice, free, open line of communication where everybody gets to speak an equal amount of time and everybody gets to say fully what's on their mind and everybody has thought about and consumed the necessary information to then explain themselves well, and so on and so forth. An energy dominant person is much more concerned with perhaps being silly, making jokes, having fun, resting, doing, and is less concerned with that free exchange of information or that open, clear exchange of information. So energy dominant people will often look at information dominant people as people who don't accomplish, or people who are boring, or people who spend too much time talking, or people who are way too serious, or people who are too concerned with, okay, I get it. You're telling me this information, whatever. Can you boil it down? Can you give it to me in 5 words? Okay. And information dominant people are much more like, no, I can't give it to you in 5 words. This is going to take a minimum of 22 sentences for me to properly communicate this information to you. And when the energy dominant person won't be quiet and listen, the information dominant person is going to get frustrated and upset. And when the information dominant person won't just say whatever it is that they have to say in like 10 seconds, the energy dominant person is going to get frustrated and upset. And so what I want you to take from this, if you can, is that when you're trying to figure out, why do I have this relationship breakdown with this other person? Why is it that we are not on the same page? It could be, you're in INFP, and the person you're trying to interact with is an ISTJ, and you just have some differences there, Or it could be that you're using extroverted feeling and you're trying to communicate with someone who uses introverted feeling, or introverted thinking versus extroverted thinking, right? It could be those things. But it could also be that you are an information dominant person and the person that you're trying to interact with is an energy dominant person. And you're more concerned with making sure that the whole picture is thoroughly explained and understood, and they're more concerned with something more energy related. I want to get through this conversation and I need to rest, or I want to go do something, or whatever it may be. Or it could be the flip of that, where you're the energy dominant person, and you're kind of frustrated by this information dominant person who over communicates. I'm an information dominant person, and I have been accused on more than one occasion of over communicating. But when I look at energy dominant people, I accuse them of under communicating. Like, give me your information. I need to understand. I want to thoroughly know the situation so that we can understand one another. And the energy dominant person may not be able to do that, may not be willing to do that. But at the same time, sometimes as an information dominant person, I have to learn to boil it down a little bit. Now, I may go more in depth on these issues in future videos, or I may not, I'm not sure. So if you're interested in the concept in general, then check out Objective Personality, because they have many, many, many videos on it, especially if you sign up for, having access to their private videos, so to speak. There are a lot of things about Objective Personality that you may start to watch the videos and be turned off by. But if you can push through some of the things that may or may not bother you at the beginning, let me tell you that there's a treasure trove of information to be found within that. Even though both of the people who do the videos are energy dominant people, they're not information dominant people, and they make fun of themselves about that, about how they spend too much time making jokes and sort of having fun and doing whatever, as opposed to communicating the information that they've discovered, and their information is really good. But I want to present this because it has a major impact in my life. Because I'm not just an information dominant person. I'm kind of like an over the top, oh my gosh, information dominant person. It is of the utmost importance to me to consume information, have a thorough understanding of it, and then blast it out to people so that they can benefit from it. But not everybody is that concerned with that. And even people who are maybe concerned with it, they don't need a 20-minute video. This video alone is really long on this subject, and I'm sure there are going to be plenty of people who are like, oh my gosh, you could have said that in 2 minutes. Those are the those are the energy dominant people. And when I get those comments from people like, blah, 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 you talk too much, you go on for too long, I'm like, that's an energy dominant person. And I'm not hurt by that or offended by that. I'm like, well, I may not be the right person for you. But you information dominant people out there will probably love me because I go on quite a while. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you found this entertaining, informational, or useful. If you did, please click the like button. Please subscribe if you have not already. And if you are benefiting from the content on this channel and would like to donate financially to what I'm doing, there will be a link in the description below to where you can go to a website called Ko-fi, K-O-F-I, and make a donation. And thank you so much if you do, and thank you to all of you who have. Have an awesome day. Bye now.